conspiracists seek not to correct those they accuse, but to deny their standing in the political world, to argue, explain, persuade, and decide. From attacking malevolent individuals to assaulting institutions, conspiracism corrodes at the very foundations of democracy. So that, what you just heard, that very, very spooky quote, is from the book. A lot of people are saying The New Conspiracism and Assault on Democracy by Russell Muirhead and Nancy L. Rosenblum. So why am I reading these ominous quotes about the decline of civilization and the end of democracy? I mean, super breezy, super casual. Here's the thing. There's a lot of fake news, a lot of deep fakes, a lot of AI generated nonsense. And people are like, I don't know what's true from what's not true. And we're all deeply, deeply confused. And a recent example of this is a baseless claim that former President Barack Obama was having an affair with Jennifer Aniston. And I gotta say, there was a moment when I was like, oh my God, is this true? Why? Why is it true? Why is this happening? Jennifer, like, come on. And then I looked around and I was like, wait a second, that's not true. That's not true. So why? What's happening? Does Jennifer Aniston and Barack Obama's fake affair signal that the U.S. empire, the civilization as we know it, is just caterwauling into a steep decline? And I don't mean to be glib about this because the decline of civilization is no laughing matter. However, a lot of times this kind of gossip and this kind of fake news, it does signal that things maybe aren't great. So pour yourself a spicy margarita because it's 5 o'clock somewhere and civilizations, they don't last forever. All right, let's do this. Welcome to Bookwise from bookclub.com. I am your host, Britt Brewer, aka Dr. Books. I am not a licensed medical professional. And I'm not necessarily a end of times historian, but I dabble in the dark arts. We're going to just, do what we do here on Bookwise, which is to unpack current events through the lens of books. Okay. Because I like to read and I do not get out a lot. And apparently I am now speaking like a robot. Okay. So how are we going to unpack the world of gossip, fake news, conspiracies? The first way we're going to unpack it is virality over truth. Okay. Next up, gossip and conspiracies, how they exploit public perceptions. 3, erosion of trust in institutions. That's a biggie. And also stick around. Okay. Because we're going to have some bonus content. We're going to do a little bit of a deep shallow dive. We're far from the shallow now into maybe the bloodiest revolution of all time and how it might very well relate to this time right now. First up, the power of repetition and virality over truth.
Breaking news. Barack Obama caught kissing Jennifer Aniston.
But, what you start realizing is
cheesy tabloid is going to make up a story.
Because she's the one that got me fired.
What does that mean? Well, remember how in the beginning I was like, oh my God. I mean, they really flooded the zone with there was so much. It was just like, all of a sudden I woke up one day and it was like, Barack Obama, Jennifer Aniston. And I was like, no, I don't want to be here anymore. Mama, get me off this train. I'm done. And I was texting people being like, is this true? And they were like, no. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, it's not true. But that means that repetition and virality, like the more and more you see this thing, even if it's not true, you just your brain just goes, oh, it's true. No, because you saw it 55 times. So it's got to be true, even if it's not true. And that's how these kinds of stories, that's how they gain traction. It's because there's just bots and they're being like, push it out. And the more something is repeated, like I said, the more people assume that it's true, even if there is zero evidence backing it up. And to quote this book, a lot of people are saying, the new conspiracism imposes its own reality through repetition, exemplified by something like Trump's catchphrase, a lot of people are saying. So if you say a lot of people are saying in front of something, all of a sudden it's true, I guess. And base assertion, like, well, we're not going to get political, but you know what he liked to say about the election that came before this one. Okay, so this is how celebrity gossip and political conspiracy theories, this is how they thrive. They don't offer proof, but they just amplify it across social media, tabloids, casual conversation. If you keep being like, I tell you what, what podcast is good is Bookwise. Well, let me tell you, a lot of people are saying that it's really good. It might be rigged, but it's really good. If we could get a bunch of bots, a bunch of like Russian bots to do that, boy, I would be famous, you guys. Come on. I'm not saying do it, but why not? Why not? Okay, so repetition over truth. Next up, how gossip and conspiracies exploit pre-existing public perceptions. What does that have to do with Barack and Janan's? Well, for a false rumor to spread, it's got to tap into something believable. There's got to be a kernel of truth. It's got to get something raw that was like already there. And for example, the Obama-Aniston rumor capitalizes on, the media fascination with Jennifer Aniston's love life. I mean, come on. That has been in the news for forever, since the 90s. And then second, the conspiratorial mindset surrounding Barack Obama, who was a frequent target of misinformation, like the baseless claim that he is not born in America. And then the classic forbidden romance trope that has fueled gossip culture since the beginning of time. Seriously. I mean, the will they, won't they, are they doing it? All of this is so naughty. It definitely capitalizes on that. And from this book, Gossip, Joseph Epstein writes, gossip wants to expose truth, or at least give the impression that it is doing so. And literature is often where gossip and truth intersect. So basically what he's saying is like, even if the claim is baseless, it's getting at some kind of emotional truth. It's getting at something raw that's like just beneath the surface, and people want it to be true. And the wanting it to be true, gossip and conspiracy theories, they don't need to be true. They only need to sound true enough based on preconceived narratives. They just got to feel true. They don't actually have to be true. Okay. And then what's the last sort of key point, main argument that can explain the whole Barack, Jennifer Aniston, those days that really rocked us very, very recently in media and institutions? And boy, have we heard a lot about that. People are not believing the news. So when tabloids and social media platforms, when they amplify false stories, they contribute to a broader culture of media distrust. And distrust in media is at an all-time low. It is so low. And all I'm going to say is there were no weapons of mass destruction. And the Judy woman who wrote for the New York Times, who kept saying that there were, she never issued an apology. So I'm not saying it's her fault, but I'm just saying maybe it is. Maybe. Okay, so if people don't know what to believe, they may reject all information sources, including legitimate journalism. And in fact, and a lot of people are saying, the authors write, the new conspiracism targets democratic foundations, political parties, and knowledge-producing institutions. It makes it more difficult to argue, persuade, negotiate, compromise, and even disagree. Ultimately, it delegitimizes democracy, which means, it's like a bunch of dominoes. You tap one, they all start to fall over. But whatever journalism is, I think it's the fourth estate, the fifth estate. I want to say the fifth estate. It's the fifth estate. Anyway, people, if they don't believe in these institutions, if they start to just think that everything is false or fake, then they're just not believing anything. And then they are primed to believe a whole lot of malarkey, a whole Delaware train full of piping hot malarkey. So this gossip, this like rampant belief in things that are true, it definitely reflects like a broader societal problem of just distrust in information itself. So we've got a trust problem. It's about trust. It's about us, except it's not a matter of trust because nobody is trusting anything. And we got to build back trust. We got to build it back. I don't know how, but we've got to. So, as promised, here is bonus content. Hi there. Welcome to bonus content. All of these books, they made me think of different times in society when fake news and gossip and all of this stuff was at its had just reached its zenith, had just reached its frothy fervor. And there are different times when things were getting really untrue, really fake, and there were some dire consequences, like the late Roman Republic, the decline of Rome. And Cicero and, say, Julius Caesar, they were both victims of fake news. People were lying and they were dying. The witch hunts of medieval Europe. Gossip and hysteria, it led to the execution of thousands of accused of witchcraft. They were throwing them in the lake and being like, do they float? Yeah, they do. It doesn't mean they're a witch. The Weimar Republic, we all know what happened there. Not good. Not good. The worst. McCarthyism and Red Scare of the 1950s. Fear of communism. People were being blacklisted left and right. If you even sneezed the word communism, you were put on a list, and the McCarthy and his goons, they were going after you. But I have to say, because we're talking about an affair, and there's a woman at the center of it, and we're kind of talking about like celebrities and fascination with celebrities. It really called to mind the French Revolution. Leading up to the French Revolution, there was so much fake news. Oh my God, so much fake news. That was the ghost of Marie Antoinette, actually. There was a lot of fake news, particularly about one very, very maligned woman, Marie Antoinette. And she was maybe the most slandered woman in France. And let me tell you what, if you go back and look at some of the cartoons and some of the pamphlets and some of the stuff that was happening back then, I mean, really, really very not safe for work content. And the things that they said about Marie Antoinette were just beyond libelous. They were really, really nasty, nasty, nasty rumors. And a lot of this actually was brought upon by other jealous royals who were funding these pamphleteers. It's a whole thing. Look it up if you have time. What's an example of some fake news that was happening right before the bloodiest part of the French Revolution, when everybody got their heads chopped off in the guillotine? Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake is one of the most famous examples of fake news, propaganda, gossip that has withstood the test of time. So that phrase, let them eat cake, that was wrongly attributed to Marie Antoinette. But it really, really caught fire because people in France who were starving, who were just fed up with the aristocracy and the royalty, they just wanted it to be true. They wanted for someone to have come and been like, Marie Antoinette, the poor people, they're starving. And for her to go, ha, 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 let them eat cake. And then throw a big old party, just where it was just really, really just nasty and raunchy. It was like, I mean, P. Diddy would have just been like, whoa, there's a lot going on there. Yeah, so people wanted it to be true. But the thing is, she never, ever, ever said it. She didn't even say anything close to it. But this rumor, it spread like wildfire. Until this day, people still think that Marie Antoinette literally said, let them eat cake, which she didn't. And another thing, that's just like one example of how fake news spread and led to really, really negative public sentiment about a celebrity figure like Marie Antoinette. She was accused of having an affair with this bishop. And then there was a whole trial about it. It was called the Affair of the Diamond Necklace. And that was just the nail in the coffin. People were like, she's saying, let them eat cake. She's having an affair. Oh my God, this woman has got to go. And honestly, all of this negative press and all of the gossip and all the fake news swirling around, I mean, that really, people were in such a frenzy of hatred, and it really kind of it lit the match that set the whole thing on fire, that led to ultimately, after a botched escape, I mean, Louis and Marie Antoinette and their kids gone. And no one at that time really shed a tear because they were so angry with her because they thought all of these terrible things about her that were not true. And listen, Barack Obama, Jennifer Aniston, sure. Kind of like a flash in the pan as far as gossip goes, but it is emblematic of the fact that we're willing to believe a whole lot of things that just aren't true. I mean, let them drink smart water. So it's not just celebrity gossip. It's actually kind of an example of how misinformation can spread. It can undermine trust. And it's reflecting a culture that is increasingly driven by emotion over evidence. And with that, this has been another episode of Bookwise, a podcast brought to you by bookclub.com. I'm your host, Britt Brewer, aka Dr. Books. And as always, happy reading. And with that, we're going to take you out on a moment of zen.
You say you love Jennifer Aniston, and you really do. She's your favorite celebrity.
Ever. I mean, I feel like we all feel like we know her and she's our friend. And I do a really good impression of her that I just want to do. I don't do impressions, but this one is pretty great. Okay, so it's very subtle. See if you can catch it. That's it. That's all that it is.